Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. You got another entry based on one of your suggestions on here, and this one is a pretty cool urban legend. Starting off with the other urban legend with regarding a bridge, and that one being the Moneyman Bridge. Now we have another bridge that is essentially associated with an urban legend, this one being the Donkey Lady Bridge. I've heard of that name too before, but I never looked into it, and so it was interesting to find out the various tales. And what was really interesting to find out was how close it is actually to my location here. So apparently the Donkey Lady Bridge is in the outskirts of San Antonio, Texas, which is pretty much just about a 45-minute drive from my location here. And the way the story goes, there's actually variations of it as well. So some people say that the Donkey Lady was essentially somebody that's just minding her own business. Others have said the Donkey Lady is somebody who lost her family in a fire. So and she's completely and horribly disfigured. So there's various, I guess, legends associated with the woman herself. So I'll just go by what is the more common one, and that is the fact that if you go back in time to the 1940s, 1950s, there was a woman who was kind of like a hermit. Nobody knows her name, nobody knows who she was, or at least if they did, nobody ever bothered mentioning what her name was. But there was this woman who was a hermit, and she would cross a bridge throughout her path every single day. She apparently took the same path every day like a routine. She would go from one place to another, and then she would come back, and every time this happened, she would essentially cross this bridge that you'll see a picture of here. This bridge is apparently, again, very close by to my area. It's over at a location called Elm Creek. It crosses Elm Creek via Applewhite Road. So if you're ever in San Antonio and you're near that location, particularly north of Loop 1604, then you're near the area. It'll be a good place to check out. So this woman, she would cross this bridge on the way back and just minding her own business. She had a donkey with her that she absolutely loved. She treated it as another family member. And who knows, if you follow the story that she lost her family in a fire, maybe this was her recuperation. Maybe this was her way of essentially having a family again. But in essence, she treated this donkey essentially as another member of a family, and so she took well care of this donkey, and she would always take it to a place where it would, just graze and eat grass, and then come back the same way to her home. Well, one day, apparently during one of these travels, this donkey bit or chomped at a 4 or 5-year-old child, and when this happened, that child went back to their parents and let the parents know about what happened. And so the old man, the father at least, decided not necessarily to have any kind of vengeance, but decided, hey, something could be wrong with this donkey. What if it has rabies? We got to find out. And so they decided, the father and some other men, they decided to go ahead and wait, knowing that this woman does the same routine every single day. They decided to wait for her to show up, so that way they could take her donkey and then find out if the donkey was dangerous in any way. So the way the story goes is, sure enough, the next day happened. The lady was crossing the bridge with her donkey. The men were hiding in the shadows, and that's when they came out. And when they came out, they started struggling with this woman, struggling with her to capture this donkey. And the donkey, of course, seeing these strangers grabbing for it, was fighting back at the same time. And it got to the point where things lost control. And the donkey, again, everybody was on the bridge, the donkey slipped, and it actually fell into the river below, into the creek below. And apparently at that time, this creek was moving pretty fast. Either there was a recent rainfall of some sort, or the waters were still elevated, but this donkey was crying. It was not able to get back up. The creek was taking it far away, and the woman could just scream in horror. That's all she could do at the fact that this donkey was literally getting farther and farther, struggling and not able to survive. Essentially went under, and the men, instead of like apologizing or jumping in trying to find the donkey itself, the way the story goes is the men actually started making fun of the sound that the donkey made. It made a particularly horrible scream. This was an animal that knew that it was about to die, and as much as it was struggling trying to get to the surface, it was not reaching either side of the banks. So this was essentially the last the death throes of the donkey itself. And so they started mimicking this awful cry that the donkey made, and this just infuriated that woman even more so, because this was her baby, this was her child in essence, and that she started fighting back against the men. And so the men started struggling, and they decided they wanted to go ahead and just call it quits right then and there. And so they started walking away, but the woman wouldn't have it. She said, this wasn't just going to be the end of it. So she suddenly started throwing rocks at them and hitting them pretty hard with those rocks. This woman again just lost her favorite animal in the world, her child, and with regards to those rocks, she was hitting them. And so these men just started struggling with her again, and in the struggle, she too fell into the creek underneath. And it is, unlike the donkey, which struggled for a while, apparently this woman just sank. And maybe she wasn't able to swim. Maybe she hadn't swum before ever in her life, so it wasn't quick until she hit the body. Her body hit the water. She fell under, and that was it. Her body never floated to the top, and so she died. And so the urban legend goes that because of the horrible death of the donkey and the horrible death of the woman, then this area is haunted by their spirits. They're haunted by anybody who decides to do the following. And this is apparently the way the urban legend goes, that you can essentially taunt and tease and summon these particular entities on there. And the way it goes is you go up to the bridge. It always happens to be at night, of course. So you go up to the bridge, drive up in your car, and then you shut it off. And then the variations of it are, you can either start honking and making as much noise as possible, trying to have anything as far as a reaction. And if that doesn't work, others have mentioned it's trying to mimic like the donkey sounds, trying to make sure that it sounds like the donkey as if it were dying in the river there as well. And then other variations are when nothing is happening, then you actually step out of the car and you go wander into the woods themselves. So that may be the fact that you are in the car itself ain't exactly doing anything in terms of bringing out the donkey lady. So because you're in a protective shell of sorts, so you have to make sure that you have yourself stepping out, and then that'll summon her. But the way the stories go is that once this happens, once you're able to successfully bring forth the donkey lady, people either see something, a womanly figure on the road. Suddenly this womanly figure would leap and then pounce straight onto the trunk or straight onto the hood of the car, just like that. Like 1 minute she's there, the next second she's on the hood of the car with a gigantic pounce, shaking, rattling the entire car, bouncing it essentially on its springs. That's how hard apparently the force is on there. And then other variations is, while the woman is there distracting you, essentially people hear hooves. They start hearing the galloping of what sounds like hooves of a donkey. And then the donkey would suddenly jump onto the car as well, either on the roof or on the trunk, again with the same force, enough to actually bend the frame downward. And that's when people start panicking and screaming and trying to get the hell out of there as quickly as they can, because again, all of a sudden it's eerily quiet, and then the next you have something pounding so hard on the roof or on the trunk or the hood of the car that the entire car is forcibly shaken on there. And yet other variations are, once you're able to summon the donkey lady, you actually have rocks being thrown straight at your car. The windshield is cracking, the windows are breaking, again mimicking the rocks that the donkey lady threw to those men after they started making fun of the donkey that just died on there. So very stories associated with this, and people that have mentioned being there. I've always said that whenever they go there, especially the ones that step out, they know that something is going to start to happen, because you get that feeling as if you're being watched, that unnerving feeling that there's something watching you that you can't necessarily see, followed by actually seeing some eyes staring at you in the darkness. And then that's when all hell pretty much breaks loose on there. So that's the story of the Donkey Lady and the Donkey Lady Bridge, the urban legend associated with it. So again, if you're near and around the San Antonio area, you're near north of Loop 1604, go ahead and check it out. Who knows, I may be able to check it out one of these days as well, preferably during the daytime with regards to these things, but because it's so close nearby. But if anyone has any stories, any experiences, friends, family members, co-workers, anyone else that you can think of that has anything associated with this particular urban legend, share it with everybody on there. I'll be happy to see everybody's comments associated with that. So alright, thanks again everybody, take care.